And if I'm not investing 100% of my mental energy on where I am now, not that the future is not a beautiful place and not that we can't learn from the past, but
absolutely,
if we are not invested on the road we're driving on and wondering if we should have taken a right when we took a left, we are setting ourselves up for nothing short of failure.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to 3 Words, a bite-sized podcast about the small and significant and strategic choices that you can make, that I can make, in order to become the very best version of ourselves. My name is Dr. Michael Brown. I'm the host of 3 Words, and I'm here with my friend Russell Catania, and we are going to have a conversation today that we just decided yesterday we would have.
That's right.
And the 3 words are,
let it go. But Michael, let what go? You didn't tell me that part on the FaceTime call yesterday.
What do we need to let go? Well, let me start with a story. Just yesterday afternoon, I had a individual reach out to me and say, can we talk today before 2:00? And I said, absolutely. And as we began our conversation, it became very clear that there was a romantic relationship that ended probably more than 6 months ago. And he had not yet let it go. He had all these questions. He had all these musings, and he was wondering this and why did this and could have we this? And I just wanted to be able to say to my friend, and I did very graciously, the reason you're stuck and the reason this pain is not going away and the reason, quite honestly, that healing is impossible 6 months later is because, friend, you need to let it go. You know, we spend so much time wondering about the past, reliving the past in our minds, running those scripts, worried, could we have done something different? When there's so many things in our lives that we just need to let go. So I was thinking, and I would love your thoughts on this, as I was thinking of compartments and categories of things we need to let go. We need to let go of relationships,
right?
Relationships that have ended. Don't keep going back there. Let it go. We need to let go of revenge, retaliation and revenge. There are things that people have done to us. There are hurts that we still carry. But unforgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to get sick. They're sleeping fine.
Right.
It's us that are suffering. We need to let it go. What about regrets? There's things that we've done in the past that we do regret. And regret is okay, but regret should be fuel for change in the future, not something we get stuck on in the past. I think about all these things that we just need to let go, that are not helping us become the best version of ourselves today. They're actually holding us back from those things. And so that's why we added this to our filming today and our production, because I was like, wait, Russell, quick, would you be willing to do this podcast with me tomorrow? Because it's a reoccurring theme with our friends, with family, with clients. It's so hard to just let it go.
Yeah, and I think we'll find by the end of this conversation that we probably wish that we could have talked about each of those categories in their own episode. And no, seriously, you can spring an episode on me anytime. The bonus check you send me is always so nice. So I really appreciate that again. No, I'm just kidding. So, but I could not agree with so much of what you're saying more. I think, just particularly in a episode even recently, you and I talked about how, I had this just kind of drive and really like need for achievement in the beginning of my undergraduate career and even going into medical school that would really prevent me from having, joy in the things that I'm doing. I would often at the same time, be given an opportunity to take one of 2 options. And I have time for one of these. And many times I would look back on that second option. I would say, what if? And why do I need to let that go? Because it doesn't matter. Because I chose door A and door 2 is not. Yeah. And nothing I can do will change the fact that I did not choose door 2. And if I'm looking in the rearview mirror, my right eye is in the rear view and my left eye is on the road, I'm giving 50% to both of those when I need 100% of my energy on the road that I'm on. And if I'm not investing 100% of my mental energy on where I am now. Not that the future is not a beautiful place, and not that we can't learn from the past, but
absolutely,
if we are not invested on the road we're driving on and wondering if we should have taken a right when we took a left, we are setting ourselves up for nothing short of failure.
Well, and two things come to mind, even as you share, Russell, is this notion that not letting it go, it enhances within our life two things: distraction, because you're talking about the rearview mirror, and discouragement. And in the present, as I seek to live fully present in the here and now, I don't want to be distracted by what could have been, and I don't want to be discouraged about what maybe did take place. I want to be focused on here. And I love how you said it. There's definitely lessons we can learn from the past without living in the past. Let it go.
Could not agree more. And we've all been wronged, just like we've all wronged someone.
Yeah,
and we need forgiveness as much as anyone else. So when we have that moment of, oh, I really just wish I could let that person know how badly they hurt me. What are you doing for yourself? What?
And I would encourage you. And again, we've probably talked about this in other podcasts, and we definitely do this in our consulting and life coaching. But every time you felt deep pain and hurt, you need to express it. Like, you need to be able to say to the person who you feel offended you, or you feel that hurt your feelings, to make that known.
Right.
But that's the point where you let it go. So it's not like you bring it up and then you want to keep bringing it up and keep living in that moment. Like, there's something about the healing that takes place. What we're not suggesting in this podcast, this particular episode, is to let pain linger, let resentment harbor itself within our hearts. We need to deal with it. But then, friend, let it go.
That's right.
Why would we continue to drink poison, i.e. distraction, discouragement, resentment? Why would we continue to digest and ingest those things that are hurting us so profoundly? Because there's a sense of like, well, I want to suffer under this, because there's no need. Move on.
That's right. I mean, I love that you say and really hone in on the fact that, our feelings ought to be known. If someone has made us happy, we should share that. We should share our heart. We should be known by the people around us. And if we've been hurt, we should too. But expressing that hurt should usually end in, and I forgive you. Even if they're not even if their heart is not a heart of forgiveness, how do you get yourself out of the rut of revenge and let it go? You have the forgiving heart. And that might not be just saying, oh, and I forgive you, by the way, for wronging me. But in your heart, how are you going to let a situation go? And that is really, I think, by, having the heart attitude of forgiveness. And you're so right as well. There are people that have come into our lives that might not be here anymore. And,
well, we were just talking about your upcoming marriage.
Yeah.
You're getting married here in 2.5 months.
Yeah.
And I've known you long enough now to know, first of all, Ashlyn, who you're about to marry, is amazing.
I couldn't agree more.
And then I also knew your previous relationship. I met that young woman as well, and I didn't know her very well, but I'm guessing that when you had to end that relationship, and when that relationship ended, it was hard. It was painful. But had you not let it go, you would not be able to fully enjoy the present and the future that you're about to step into with this amazing woman, Ashlyn.
Right. Just very practically, I would not have met my wife. I would not have met the person that I find so many people just desperately, desperately searching the world for. The person that they can feel the most connected to, the most fully known by, the most loved by. There was nothing I did but what I thought was the right choice by letting it go. And before you know it, I'm, in 79 days, who's counting? I am marrying my wife. I'm so excited. And it was all because sometimes the hardest choice you can make is just to let it go. And I would love to start talking with you about how we can even possibly do that. We've given these examples, but anything that you've come across that really just helps you let certain tough situations go?
Well, I think it's hard to let that go, something go that you've not grieved. So I appreciate you asking.
Oh, that's
I
profound.
think that in many ways, growing and going begins with grieving. That you cannot grow and you cannot go from a difficult situation that you've not grieved. So I do think we need to grieve. I think we need to hurt. I think we need to feel the pain. I think that we need to look the discouragement and the sadness and let it roll over us, but then put a deadline on it. I actually am working with a student athlete right now who, after a loss, we don't talk for 24 hours. He wants to sulk. He wants to just be bummed out. But one of the agreements that we have in our mentoring relationship is when 24 hours passes, the deadline comes. We've sulked for 24 hours, which again is appropriate. It's good. It's actually feels really great, but put a deadline on it. The problem with not letting it go is I'm grieving, but I'm going to grieve indefinitely.
Right.
Why?
Because no one wants that.
Nobody wants that for themselves. But part of it is we want to do that because I don't know why. Part of it's retaliation against the other person, maybe who's hurt us. But there's something about wallowing that takes away the responsibility and the hard choices required to move forward. So all that to say, grieving, I think, is an important part of letting go. I think also acknowledging that there's no such thing as failure if we're failing forward. If we've learned from the loss, if we've learned from the difficult situation, if there has been, like I'm guessing, even in your previous relationship, there's lessons you learned that you now can be a different, better version of you with your current fiance and soon to be spouse, that if there's lessons to be learned from it, well, then you can almost, and this sounds weird, but it's true, you can almost celebrate that difficulty, that pain, that challenging relationship, the end of something you loved because you've learned from it. You've grown from it. So I love the idea of regrets. I love the idea of regrets, but only for a moment. We regret it, we learn from it, and then we move forward, and then we let it go. So I think lessons learned, if we look forward and say, what have I learned from this? We put a positive spin on it, but it's more than just a spin. It's a reality. And then we also grieve it. But then there's some hard choices to make. And the choice becomes when it sneaks back into our consciousness again, we speak to it and say no. Because we can't always control the thoughts that come into our mind, but we can say, I'm not going to let that thought build a nest.
Couldn't agree more.
So I think part of it is just saying, no, I'm not going to. So if that lingering thought comes back about that previous relationship or that previous hurt, you can't control that. It came up, but you can deal with it. You can remove it. You can replace it. You can move forward. But letting it go is not something like people will say to me all the time. I'm waiting to heal. I look forward to the day when I'm healed from this past circumstance or this past relationship. Healing in many ways is a choice.
You got to go see the doctor.
Yes. Yeah. And you need to take the medicine and you need to make the hard choices to actually accelerate and instigate that healing process.
I love this. And, it's always such a bummer when we have to wrap up our conversations, but I think it's just such a great reminder that, we need to really forgive as quickly as we want to be forgiven. We need to just stop looking in that rear view mirror and enjoy the road that we're on and invest in what we're doing so that regrets can be momentary and learned from. That hurt is not something that we need to reflect back onto other people, but that we have the strength to let those things go, grow and go.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure talking.
I want to, if I can, challenge our listeners and our viewers, Russell. Hope of a better tomorrow and a fantastic today is within your reach. But hope will not happen if you're still harboring. So I guess my challenge and my encouragement to you today, if you've listened into this podcast, is what do you need to let go? What are you harboring right now? What are you obsessing over that you simply need to kind of extend your hands and say, you know what? I'm going to let it go. Now, it may not be a one time and for all. You might need to let it go every single day for a period of time, but that you would commit to not allowing your present or your future to be defined by your past. It shapes you for sure. but it does not define you. Would you ask yourself this question? Is there anything in my life right now that I need to just let it go? For life coaching, consulting services, or to hire a keynote speaker, please visit dmbcoaching.com.